Welcome to the bold analysis. The lessons that Kenyan politicians should and must learn from the fate of one Ferdinand Waititu. That Kenyans and people will only respect you because you are holding that office. Rather, the high regard that you've been given is because you are an office holder. It's not because of you as a person. When when you're separated from power, you lose your bodyguards, and you lose the office machineries, you'll actually realize that your family is the only resort. There is an emotional interview by Ferdinand Waititu revealing behind the scene intrigues and how he's been brought from grace to grass by those he believed could actually help him. And I don't sympathize with him, by the way. Waititu was impeached in 2019 over 588 million corruption case that were actually linking the county coffers to private and to family and friends, using some family and friends as proxies. And the case had been dragging in the courts. It was impeached in the National Assembly and the impeachment in the County Assembly. Then the impeachment was upheld in the Senate. Towards the 2022 elections, he supported William Ruto wholeheartedly. And even he is saying he donated his vehicles to be used for the mainstream campaign. He actually donated to William Ruto's presidential secretariat, one of the vehicles, one of the cars that inajulikana kama the Beast, he is saying. And this is after William Ruto sat down with him and promised him that when he gets power, all the cases against him, all the corruption cases against him will be dropped under the guise of being state sponsored. And that is something that happened. But then as things go, what immediately after William Ruto was sworn in, one of the few things has been done to him is appointment at the Nairobi River Commission. But that appointment was also challenged by Law Society of Kenya pending determination, and it seems he can't join that commission. Waititu is saying that Ruto have abandoned him, and despite of the fact that he supported him, which of course I want to believe, I don't think it's a very good precedence for the president to say that I'm going to drop the cases. It doesn't really look good for the future of anti-corruption war in this country. He's saying president abandoned him. And last week when EACC got orders to freeze his assets against resale, one of the cars that he donated to William Ruto's presidential campaign is actually amongst those that are being freezed. So according to him, his resources are being freezed while William Ruto is staring, when William Ruto promised him that those cases are going to be dropped. And Waititu is saying that given an opportunity to get a sit down or get audience with former President Uhuru Kenyatta, he will not turn his back against anyone and anywhere he can actually get some help. It's about the reprieve. Now, he is also saying that regarding Gachagua, while visiting Kiambu County, I think that is after the election, called all the regional leaders and isolated him as a leader in the region, despite of him actually supporting them. And it seems, according to him, that he's been caged and cornered, despite of coming out to support William Ruto wholeheartedly. I need to take you back. At this moment, I need to take you back a bit. In 2017, Waititu is a beneficiary of William Ruto's fix-it nominations at Jubilee headquarters. And I remember Kabogo crying out, saying that Ruto kicked them out clearly, trying to look at the 2022 election by then. And that's how Waititu got his way to be the Kiambu governor, because the Kabogo team believes he was actually a man who was fixed there by William Ruto team to make sure that his 2022 presidential bid was already well oiled by making sure that those threats are actually suppressed. So in what seems like saying Ruto seems to be done with him and may have no option but to look for alternative approach, even if it means going against, or rather decampaigning, the UDA leadership in the region. I don't know. And I really want to say that it's really shameful and a bit not welcomed to see the cases were being dropped. And of course, Rigathi Gachagua was one of the beneficiaries. And then we will see quite a number of appointments that were made. Mary, Humphrey, quite a number of leaders, a number of business moguls from Mount Kenya whose cases were dropped under the guise of being state-sponsored. And I remember telling someone that some of these things are not just being done and in the altar of correctness. Someone must part with personal fortunes, even to the powerful people in the country, to make sure that you secure your freedom from these cases. And as this will go, during Uhuru Kenyatta's second tenure, Waititu and Sonko suffered the same fate. They were all ejected from office. They were all impeached. Sonko is trying to defend his case in Tarusha. I don't know how far it's going, but it's a matter of wait and see. This is not a new development, and I don't know why Waititu is getting shocked, because even Tabitha Karanja, who had been having a long case with KRA, or a tax dispute with the KRA, we saw the charges were pressed afresh, and she was in court trying to arbitrate the same case. Kidero, despite of getting a CAS position under the Ministry of Moses Kuria, that trade and industrialization, is also not yet off the hook and has been appearing in court multiple times trying to defend his case. I don't know why Waititu believes he's an exemption, even though this is a political lesson to quite a number. That sometimes you need to know battles that if you fight, you can win. I normally insist here that in politics, there are many battles, and you must know which battles are even counterproductive, which ones are worth your time, which ones, if you win, it's going to add value into it. I want to tell Waititu from wherever he is, if someone can share with him this video, I think should know this is where the devil are. The devil is in the details. The ghosts following Waititu is his resources. Because his resources, the fact that he donated some resources to a presidential campaign, to William Ruto's presidential campaign, is already a red flag that is not a pushover when he finds his way back to an elective contest. And clearly, those who would want to seek elective seats in Kiambu, especially the senior most position, the governorship seat, are the ones that are against him. I looked at the stories and saying that those around William Ruto don't want to see him talking to William Ruto closely, and all his paths to secure meeting with William Ruto are being blocked by his PAs and William Ruto's deep state. They've kicked him out, and even, sometimes you normally get that opportunity when there is an event and you get to sit next to the president. Doesn't get it. Some people just follow the president here and there to get that audience in some of these events, to get that audience. And William Ruto is one of the most available presidents, I think, probably in the history of this country. I did not, for the president that I've seen work, that's Kibaki, And Uhuru Kenyatta, I did not have a very good experience with Moi. I think I was young, of course. So Ruto is most available, and someone can challenge me. So those who want to be governors in Kiambu, and the Chungwas, the Kamani Chungwas, the Moses Kurias of our time, these are the people. And remember, they're in the decision-making table. Kimani Chungwa is a majority leader in the National Assembly. If you look at the senator, in the Senate, you look at CS Kuria. These are people that harbor governorship ambitions or even very senior positions ambitions back in the county. So that kind of positioning, the same ghosts, those are the people and those are the factors against his case. And I don't think, and I think we need to be very objective here. True as it may, judiciary may be indicted in this case if they set such a precedence. And remember, if you drop the case against Waititu, then the next morning you must also sanitize Mike Sonko. And when you sanitize the two leaders, then I can tell you our constitution will lack the grip. I don't know, it might take some time. I can tell you that it can even take for some of these laws to be amended and people get this kind of freedom. Then we might have actually go to amend the constitution and look at it. I also don't. I also support. In fact, I support punitive punishment for corrupt leaders. I wish the way we can impeach a governor and never to hold any office. We should also take that to the public service, other public service offices, parastatal heads. When you are impeached, they should also be impeached. When you are removed from office through an active corruption case, whether you win that case later or not, you should not be allowed to hold any office. In fact, when you have the Chapter 6 smear in your garment, then you should not be allowed anywhere near a public office. I fully support it. So the judiciary cannot risk setting that precedence. And even if William Ruto wanted to effect that in the altar of political correctness, I think judiciary must and could have stood their ground and said, look here, that one we cannot grant. Waititu must also kind of understand that the Oster could have had a deeper influence, and the influence is one that William Ruto has. Maybe William Ruto will want to, but we'll have to give it a second thought. The other day I was in some Uber. I was in a Uber, and a very good friend was actually telling me that some of the problems in Kiambu County are actually deep commercial interests. Del Monte is one of the biggest companies, and it is based in that place. And during Waititu's tenure, I think their lease had expired or something. So they've also been pushed, and Del Monte is an international company. I was just getting an understanding that in Mexico they have one of the largest farms. Look at the Northland City; it sits in Kiambu. So there have been deep commercial interests even in that Kiambu County that you cannot underestimate, and they could have been some of the things behind the fate of Waititu. So, and that's why sometimes you need to. Maybe this deeper commercial influence cannot allow him to bounce back. And those who may have influenced it could have also still holding the grip on it. And this is a very difficult aspect then to fight for. Now, Ruto administration remains shamefaced, and we really threw jabs at them when the cases were being dropped one after the other. And it actually pointed clearly that they did not have a very strong weapon against corruption, and corruption is actually killing the UDA, the government dream. So they know very well that, yes, Waititu's case, Waititu's a governor, is a high-profile case, And impeaching a governor was a high profile case. That if you had to touch that, it would actually attract the ridicule from the country and just show that, look here, they are not so much bothered. And when you start by that, you know, for Rigathi Gachagua, you can say under the guise of being a deputy president, even though that's not the law, what the law says. But when you drop even these other small ones, you are sending a signal to the other people that I just need to, even if I go through cases, I just need political correctness, then I'll get my freedom. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my take. I don't know what can happen. Whether Waititu will opt for anti-Ruto campaign, maybe, but that would also be a higher risk because it will be crushed further. The same state-sponsored cases might still re-emerge and be muffed up, and it continues. But that is the lesson, that sometimes when you're in your office, when you're in a position of power, try to do your best to, if you can change, if there is something you can do, because power is transient. We normally say it is really transient, where you only have a single minute to listen. Presenter akisema kitu kipita imekupita. That's how power is. It's just now. When you leave it, then you're actually going to be a real civilian. That's my take.